is a function of a system they can fix and not a function of the evil in men's hearts. Because once you accept, Joseph, that evil in men's hearts exists, it is impossible for you to argue that you should be ruled by other men who could be evil. They don't want you to believe that. They believe in the statist vision that smart planners and bureaucrats should rule your life because you're too dopey. You're too dopey, man. You dumb, you fill in the blank. You're too stupid. That's what they believe. Guys like Bynard at The Atlantic, he is engaged in this conflict of visions now. He thinks we're all a bunch of dopey, fighting the Revolutionary War all over again. Southern and Midwestern dopes who have no sense of reality, and therefore we're, to quote Barack Obama, we cling to our guns and religion as a remnant of that to save ourselves. They believe this. They don't understand that we as conservatives accept that men are fallible. Many men are good. Many women are good, thankfully. But many aren't. That evil is real, that evil exists, and we have a government only to protect us against government itself and the evils of men. That's what our republic and our Constitution is. It is a limiting document stating in the Bill of Rights what government can't do to us precisely because men have evil in their hearts, and government has been a source of tyranny and death basically throughout human history. Mm-hmm. You dispute that? The greatest mass murderers of all time used government. Stalin, Mao. These were government leaders. They used the vehicle of government to engage in extermination on a mass scale. Our republic was different. Our representative democracy instilled a Bill of Rights to limit government itself and the evil that men could do against other men using the vehicle of government. Conservatives fear government, not because we're irrational, not because we're looking to take up arms against it. You guys are they're nuts. They think like we're engaged in some kind of civil war. Yeah. Now, we have been when government became tyrannical. I mean, that's what the revolution was. But that's what they have, this bizarre vision, like we're all sitting there like John J. Rambo cleaning our ARs, waiting for like King George to show up again. That's not what anybody's doing. It's a simple recognition of the fact that men are fallible and government should be limited. And when we sense government and government activists and big government supporters and now their corporate buddies attacking us, we start to get afraid because we're afraid that obviously concentrated power is going to hurt us in the realm of individual liberty. This isn't hard. But Prager's piece kind of sums this up in light of the argument about arming teachers. How the left says things, Joe, that are entirely ridiculous.
Yeah.
We don't need more guns in schools. No, Sherlock. You don't get to make that call. The bad guy does. When the bad guy shows up at the school fence, getting ready to engage in mass carnage with a knife, bomb, firearm, or whatever it may be, you don't get to say, halt, who goes there? Oh, you're here to do carnage? We want less guns in schools. Okay, thank you. Have a nice day. That's not the way it works. Folks, the left knows this, though. I'm not talking about, again, Democrats. The radical left understands they are putting you in danger with this stupidity. And when I say this stupidity, let me be clear, crystal clear what I'm talking about. By not putting armed school resource officers or armed school staff in schools. They absolutely, the radical left, not Democrats here. Some Democrats are part of that, but not all of them. They absolutely understand your kids are in danger because of it. When the left avoids a conversation about terrorism. Oh, no, let's call it violent extremism, Joe. Let's not talk about terrorism.
No. That makes it better. Yeah.
That makes it better because they can focus on critical theory and the white patriarchal power structure and how dangerous returning veterans are, which makes you believe that what broke, Joe? The system, not evil terrorists. The system broke. Therefore, returning veterans are problems too. And you see how it distributes the blame across the system and avoids the conversation of individual evil? Mm-hmm. When you focus on the terrorists and the evil in that ideology and the evil people who apply to it, it makes you say to yourself, wow, we need to protect ourselves. When you focus on violent extremism and a broken system, you focus on the system, not protecting yourself. How do we fix the system? Oh, bigger government. That'll do it. Give us more money. You people are all too stupid to figure it out on yourself. Didn't you know? I'm sorry if we're getting wonky, but this is a really, really important conversation. They avoid the focus on evil with terrorism, knowing it puts you in danger. They avoid a focus on when the Soviet Union was exploding in prominence and building a nuclear arsenal and threatening the United States. We will crush you. You all remember that, most of you, above the age of 40 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Or you've seen video of it. What did the left do? They defended the Soviet Union. Because they couldn't acknowledge what Ronald Reagan said, and he used these words very deliberately, make no mistake. He called them the evil empire. And that drove the left wild. Remember that, Joe?
Sure do.
My God. Evil empire! He's going to start a war! Ah! That drove the left nuts because it directly took on their perverse ideology that evil doesn't exist. It is simply a function of broken governing systems. And when you give them power, they will fix the governing system and they will fix people that are broken. They're not evil. The system's broken. Ronald Reagan entirely deconstructed them. And make no mistake, he knew exactly what he was saying. He was an avid reader of Hayek, of Milton Friedman. He entirely understood this. The school of thought, Thomas Sowell, who wrote those books I told you about, Conflict of Visions, and Vision of the Anointed, those are the people he learned from. Reagan understood what Sowell understood, that an acknowledgement of real evil was anathema to the left. Acknowledging your right to defend against it, whether it's arming teachers, whether it's acknowledging the global jihadist threat and building a counter-terror apparatus against it. Acknowledging that acknowledges evil and entirely defeats the left's ideology that it's not the men, it's the system. Because remember, and I'll tie this up with this, once you acknowledge the evil in men's hearts, it is absolutely impossible for you to capitulate your liberty to the same said men. Let me say that again, folks. It's important. Once you acknowledge that evil exists in men's hearts, the entire liberal ethos that you should be ruled by the same fallible men with the potential for evil in their hearts, that entire ethos falls apart. This is why they do everything in their power, align with anybody they wish, to get to a control agenda and to beat down the idea of the individual being sovereign over their own life. Think about it, folks. I didn't even get to a lot of this other stuff, but I want to get to some good news because I told you I'd leave you with good news, but I just want a couple more things here. You know, I said to you the other day, when you understand that and you understand the left's battle with objective truth, God matters, the state, men are fallible. We're just limiting the state. When you understand the subjective truth, you understand all of the left's wars. Why is the left at war with Christians? Because Christians believe that their rights come from God, that they are sovereign over themselves, that their right to self-protection, their right to speech, those come from God. We're not asking man for that. Hey, Joe, can I have the right to free speech?
Yeah.
Double-barreled middle finger. We get that these rights from God.
That's what I wanted to hear you say.
The left can't have that.
Right.
They can't have a set of objective big R rights from God. Those rights, according to the left, are supposed to come from the state and the state only. They believe in the big S state. We believe in the big G God and his big R rights. They don't believe in that. They have to deconstruct that. The battles start to make sense. Because a recognition of evil also acknowledges that there's an objective set of good, too. In other words, a departure from an objective set of good values. What God told us, be good to your friends, share volunteer your time, love your kids, love your neighbor. Don't do stupid stuff. Don't steal. That a departure from that is in fact evil. They can't acknowledge any of those. Everything to them is relative. Everything to them relative, meaning determined by man. meaning they'll change it on a whim. If they have to steal money from rich people by confiscatory taxation, the state will do it. If they have to align with, say, radical Islamism and ignore the threat of it because they think it will align that, help them in an identity politics agenda and help them gain power, they'll do it. If they have to attack a Christian baker, I mean, think about it. On one end, they're arguing, this is the hypocrisy of the left, Joe. On one end, they're arguing, hey, these companies are free companies. They can divorce themselves with an NRA affiliation however they want.
All right.
And on the exact same end, they're arguing, oh, by the way, that Christian baker, they're a free company too, but they have to bake a cake for a wedding, a gay wedding, but they don't want to be involved in it. Wait, what is it?
How's that
What
work?
is it? Is freedom of association exist or does it not? The answer is it doesn't to them. Nothing, the only thing exists to them is a tactic to gain power. And if claiming the free market matters when they need to divorce the NRA, they'll say, yeah, we believe in free markets. But then when you say, well, what about the Christian baker? Oh, enough free markets for them. Wait, so your objective value of free markets is not objective. It's subjective. In other words, it's only free when it aligns with your values, right? This is what they do. When you say to them, oh, you guys are supporters, right, of LGBTQ, the movement, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer movement, right? For your supporters, right? Well, why are you dedicating all your attention to a cake maker in Oregon and not to Iran overseas where they literally throw gay people off a building? Why? Why not? You know why? Because that doesn't align with their agenda. Their agenda is to gain power. They use identity politics to do it. They are using the LGBTQ lobby. They're using them. And they understand that if they emphasize the danger, Joe, of an Iranian regime, that they would have hurt Obama and they would have empowered national security hawks, who are, by the way, traditionally conservatives, and they would empower Republicans. They don't want to do that. So what do? They ignore it. Wait, there are gays being thrown off buildings. Oh, no. Shh. Joe, don't talk about that. If we talk about that happening in Iran, it'll generate an interest in the American people in doing something about it. And in doing something about it, it'll probably empower national security hawks and conservatives. That doesn't fit our agenda gaining power. So let's bankrupt the Christian cake maker out in Oregon, but don't say anything about throwing gay people off buildings in Iran. It is not objective. Objective would be we support gay rights, but you don't support them in Iran? What is it? How come you're not dedicating your interest to where death and destruction is going on? Where the gay people aren't discriminated against, they're killed. Almost no effort is applied to that. They supported an Iran deal. We gave them pallets of cash. Liberals loved it. Because there's no set of objective values. There is only an agenda to gain power. That is it. Now, leaving you with some good news. We are winning here, folks, because this endless focus on subjective values based in identity politics. In other words, this idea that anything we do, we will do to divide up Americans in order to gain power. In other words, we will pit black Americans against white Americans, the rich against the poor, unions against non-unions, men against women. This is unquestionably what liberals do because liberals believe in the accumulation of power to diminish the individual. Any tactic they have to use to get it, they will use anything. It explains it all. Why do they ignore, gays being killed in Iran? Because it doesn't benefit their accumulation of power. Why do they insist on calling terrorism violent extremism? Because if they call it terrorism, it'll focus on evil. A focus on evil will focus on you wanting to protect yourself against evil, and that doesn't fit their agenda because they don't want you to want to protect yourself. They want you to suckle on the teat of the state, even for your security. Do you understand do you see where I'm going with this? They will use identity politics and anything to diminish the individual and enhance the power of the state. So what's the good news about this? I took a few notes over here. And one final point, though, on the Biner thing. Just he thinks that we that what I'm saying right now, by the way, and I'm quoting him, is a persecution complex.
What?
He feels, Joe, that, you